Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. Today is Season 4, Episode 63, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, John Keir.
Hello, everybody.
We're going to be talking about the Chiefs and 49ers Super Bowl, where the Chiefs came out victorious. Honestly, it was one of the best Super Bowls I've seen in, the past 5 years. It was really entertaining, especially for one that the Steelers are not in. It felt close the entire time, and there was that comeback by the Chiefs, but we'll get into that soon. What did you think of the Super Bowl? Did you have a good time?
Yeah, this was one of those games where I thought it was, was not the best played game. It was a little sloppy at times, as evidenced by, the MVP Patrick Mahomes. His final stat line, he had as many touchdown passes as he did interceptions. He threw, 15 plus incomplete passes, but he still played well enough in the big moments to win the game. And it was back and forth. It was a quality game. Certainly not something you'll come across and say this was a great game, but it was a pretty solid one. And, it'll get lost in the shuffle of a ton of other Super Bowls. But I enjoyed it more than I've enjoyed any Super Bowl, really, since Super Bowl 49, personally.
Yeah, man, it's been quite a while since we've had a pretty good Super Bowl. Were you surprised by the outcome with the Chiefs winning 31-20, or did you kind of expect it, or what?
Well, the way we were talking beforehand, I really was expecting the 49ers to win this game, and I thought that they'd win it in a little more convincing fashion. I thought that they were going to kind of snowball things a little earlier, but through the first three quarters, they led 20-10, and I thought that there was a pretty good chance for them to kind of maybe put the game out of reach in the fourth quarter, but that never happened, and then the Chiefs, as they have done all postseason long, they've recovered from that deficit. And they turned it into a convincing lead as they scored 21 straight points in the fourth quarter. And they turned a 10-point deficit into an 11-point advantage and were able to salt the game away at that point. I definitely wasn't surprised that the Chiefs won. It wasn't what I thought was going to happen, but it's the way in which they won that surprised me the most. And I guess looking at the other two postseason games they played in, maybe it shouldn't have surprised me.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem in this game, if I were to pick out one thing, it was the 49ers cornerbacks on the Chiefs wide receivers. They were just completely outmatched. The problem with Sherman came to light is that he's a zone coverage cornerback that's slower, and he got burnt. I'm pretty sure the stat line going against him was 7 for 7, 158.3 passer rating, a perfect passer rating, a touchdown, and I believe over 70 yards. So I forget the exact yardage, but regardless, he was terrible and he didn't match up well against Tyreek Hill, which we expected. We said this in the preview, or at least I'm pretty sure I did, is that the 49ers needed to be a better man coverage team than a zone coverage, and Sherman wasn't that, so it wasn't going to be effective here, and that exactly came to light. What did you see to be the biggest problem with the 49ers in this loss?
Well, I'm actually going to expand on what you were just talking about. It's not just an issue of Sherman, but it's a further schematic issue with that Seattle defense, that cover 3 defense that was made famous during their Super Bowl run in 2013. They gave up a big lead in the Super Bowl the following year against the Patriots. I think that was a 10-point lead they blew to the Patriots, and even though the offense ended up losing that game with a turnover late in the game, that was a blown lead that resulted in a Super Bowl loss. The Atlanta Falcons ran a very similar defense in 2016 when they blew a 28-3 lead. And now we've seen the 49ers, who run a very similar defense to that Seahawks team, that cover 3 style, get burned. It's a lot of zone defense. And if you have a quarterback that's red hot and can, find holes in the zone, as Patrick Mahomes has, and the way Tom Brady did in 2 different Super Bowls, I think it's become clear that this type of Seattle defense is not something that really works anymore, at least not in the way that it did. You have to be able to adjust a little more, and the 49ers either were unwilling or unable to adjust.
Yeah, so it was definitely a shame because it could have been. I felt like they could have been better. I think it was more of that that they couldn't adjust. I think that was the problem because, again, I think that guys like Sherman just aren't meant for that kind of role. He's got to play what they've been playing because it's been working and that's what's good for him. I don't think they were matched well against the Chiefs, because of that. It was just their cornerbacks and safeties. I feel like the rest of the defense was great for the 49ers. I thought their pass rush was good. I mean, they got 4 sacks in this game, which is pretty solid. They also just got 5 total tackles for a loss. I thought that the defensive line was really wreaking havoc on a pretty good Kansas City defensive line, but again, I think that the cornerbacks or the whole defensive backs as a unit really blew it for the Niners in this game.
I think the defensive line got really tired at the end of the game. Actually, the defense in total, because the pass rush, which had been great early on, really disappeared in the last several drives.
I could agree to that. I think that they did look gassed at the end of the game.
And I think what's most surprising about this game, maybe outside of the way the Niners defense collapsed down the stretch, is the way both teams ran the ball. Now, the Chiefs ran with a surprising amount of success, while the 49ers, even though they finished with some pretty good numbers, if you take out those 3 runs by Deebo Samuel, which are designed end-arounds, Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman each had a long 17-yard run. If you take away those 2 runs, the 49ers had an almost non-existent running game. So they went from being a machine on the ground in their previous 2 playoff games to having a virtually non-existent running game in the Super Bowl, while the Chiefs had a very good, like Damian Williams outgained Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman combined.
Yeah, easily too. I think I give it to the Chiefs scheming up some really good runs, like even on Patrick Mahomes' carry for, I believe, the first touchdown in the game for the Chiefs, where they all did that like little reverse and then like everything moved around and it confused the heck out of the 49ers. I thought that was really good design, stuff like that. And I felt like they had to respect the passing by Patrick Mahomes a lot more in this game because they weren't, again, prepared for it. I was surprised, however, about how the 49ers... I felt like the 49ers took a step back in their coaching. Like, I felt like the best... I raved and ranted about how they were good at scheming their runs and making their running backs look good and how effectively they used all their running backs. I don't know what happened, but they got away from that. Because normally like they would use all their running backs, and they made the weird decision this game to make Jeff Wilson active, electing to have Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, Matt Breida, and Jeff Wilson all active. They chose, I think, the guy that took his place was Dante Pettis as inactive, the wide receiver.
That's correct. That's correct.
So, and then I found it weird that they didn't have a single rush by Breida or Wilson. I'm pretty sure on the preview I said, Breida. I'm going to make the guess that Breida's going to be the leading running back in this game, and he didn't even get a carry. I don't know.
They combined for 1 touch. Wilson had a 20-yard catch, I think, on a screen pass, but that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that was the 49ers getting away from what they were really good at. They were really good at getting their running backs involved and making teams like have to respect those guys like in the certain schemes. And the only, like you said, the only effective running they had was 3 runs by Deebo Samuel. He was like their best running back. I mean, granted, Raheem Mostert had a few successful runs. He had the touchdown, which was, I believe, a 1-yard touchdown. He had a long 17-yard run. But other than that, like the running game just wasn't good for them. And that was their bread and butter. I felt like the Chiefs did a really good job on that front on defense.
Yeah, the running backs in this game combined for 20 touches for the Niners.
Yeah, and that seems like a mistake. I know Jimmy G has been doing some good things. He's done okay. But I felt like not being able to use your running backs more is a mistake. That's like what 49ers have been. Like they were a ground and pound team up until like this game, it felt like.
Huge props goes out to Derek Nottie and Chris Jones up the middle, as well as Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, for being able to come up with a game plan with the 26th ranked rush defense to slow down what was, as I said earlier, a machine as far as the rushing attack goes in these playoffs.
Oh, yeah. Incredible job. Incredible job by the defensive line. I've loved Chris Jones. That man, he's going to get a payday. I don't think it's going to be with the Chiefs, but he's a free agent this year, and he's going to go somewhere and be paid because he is great down the middle. I thought he did good, and yeah, overall, that defensive line did really well against the run.
As far as the quarterback play goes, I thought Jimmy G was just fine through 3 quarters. He didn't play well in the 4th quarter, but I think he's still getting blamed a little too much for this loss. But that being said, a better throw to Emmanuel Sanders will probably win the 49ers the game on that 3rd down.
Yeah, my biggest problem was his first interception. That first interception was really ugly. He shouldn't have thrown that. I don't really blame him for missing that Emmanuel Sanders throw. Like, yeah, you want like that's an elite throw that you should make if you're like a starting quarterback. But I mean, it happens. Sometimes it just doesn't connect. But that interception, that early interception, was so rough looking. Like it was just bad. And both quarterbacks had a rough interception because Patrick Mahomes tried forcing one to Tyreek Hill that was really bad as well. So like it's like I felt like quarterback play was kind of negligible here because both quarterbacks kind of didn't do great. In my personal opinion, it's like they almost played at the same level. I mean, I guess you could say Patrick Mahomes played better, especially towards the end. But
he played better in the key moments while Garoppolo shrunk.
Exactly.
That's the main difference.
Yeah, I think that is the main difference. Otherwise, they were both actually not that great. They were both like only okay at best, in my opinion.
Yeah, because Mahomes threw the 2 picks. He got sacked 4 times. He fumbled twice. That very easily could have turned into 4 turnovers from him. And you look at like his overall stats on the day, he wasn't great. But again, in the end, he was good enough. And even though I still think that Damian Williams should have won the MVP, I get why Mahomes won it. Not only because he's a quarterback, but because of the plays he made at the end of the game too. He still is one of the best young quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, I feel like he could be a terror for years to come. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how the Chiefs hold their stuff together, if they can keep this team together for the most part, at least. But yeah, overall, he played good in key moments. I still think Damian Williams should have won it, though. The Damian Williams had the walk-off that really ended it for the 49ers, and he was just overall great throughout the entire game. I mean, he had 104 rush yards and a touchdown. Then he also added another touchdown through the air. So, like, he accounted for 2 touchdowns for the Chiefs. Like, I don't know. To me, I thought that he should have won it, but it is what it is.
You could have also convinced me for Sammy Watkins, too.
Sammy Watkins did make plays, but then also, you could probably make an argument for Tyreek Hill, since Tyreek Hill probably finished with a better stat line.
That's true as well, yeah. There were several options. The game, make no mistake, the game changed on that third, 44-yard completion to Hill.
Oh yeah, that was a complete game changer, and it was great. That play got added to Madden like right afterward because it was such a good play that they attacked the 49ers with.
And by the way, I know that Kyle Shanahan didn't have the best game, but I just want to make note of how cool it was to see such creative offensive play calling at certain points throughout the game, whether it was Kyle Shanahan emptying the playbook on the opening drive or that play that was used in like the 1949 Rose Bowl that the Chiefs had. I think you alluded to it earlier where they're spinning in the backfield before the play.
Oh yeah, that was Patrick Mahomes' rushing touchdown.
Yeah, that was all pretty cool.
Yeah, man, I really like that. I really like the creativity. I feel like we get that from Super Bowls because you got to debut some stuff that the other team didn't get. And that's, I think, my favorite part when the Steelers aren't in it. It's just like seeing like these wacky, cool plays that teams come up with.
So the Chiefs, a lot is being made. You know, this is what I hate about it. We have to make these definitive statements like Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback to ever play the game. Let's slow down right now. He has one less Super Bowl than Jim Plunkett, for God's sakes. But that being said, you look at where the Chiefs are. There's no reason to think that Patrick Mahomes doesn't give them a chance in the playoffs almost every year. But that being said, he's going to get paid this upcoming offseason most likely, which means that it's going to be a lot harder to pay guys like Tyreek Hill, like Travis Kelce going forward, or Chris Jones or other players. So the Chiefs are going to have to get creative in how they keep their team assembled, and they're going to have to make some tough decisions pretty soon here.
So I feel like this is a pretty easy question, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you make Patrick Mahomes the first $40 million quarterback? That is a $5 million raise from what Russell Wilson is making now, or $5 million from the next closest quarterback. Do you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah, it's an easy question. I figured it would be. You got to.
And the same way, like we have said these things before, even if the raise might be a little more substantial than the typical raise, like the new market setter, I think you have to do it with him. And, as we've said before, the sooner you make these deals happen, the better it'll do for you in the long term.
Oh, yeah. Easily. It helps you out. Like, eventually, in like 2 or 3 years, Tyreek Hill's contract will look small. Like, he'll be not a mid-pack, but he'll be like, still probably be top 5, but he'll probably be at like 4 or 5 by that time in just 2 or 3 years. That's all it takes. because then you have Dak Prescott being paid soon. You have Deshaun Watson being paid soon. You're going to be thinking about Josh Allen, which I don't know how much money he's going to get in like the next 2 or 3 years. But like, yeah, and Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry, Lamar Jackson is probably the one that I should be mentioning since he's the NFL MVP. But stuff like that. It's going to be interesting to see what the Chiefs do for sure, because I think that they have to cut Sammy Watkins. I'm sorry, Sammy Watkins is not worth $60 million a year, and that's going to account for a lot and gives you a chance at saving Chris Jones. If it comes down to Sammy Watkins versus Chris Jones, I will happily cut Watkins 8 times over to keep Chris Jones over him, even though he did have a great Super Bowl. I mean, his time with the Chiefs is actually pretty solid. It's just not $60 million solid. So that should help and also with expanding salary cap. Tyreek Hill's locked down for, I believe, 4 years, so I think he's okay. I know he just got a contract extension. I think he gets $18 million a year right before Michael Thomas did, right after. But regardless, I don't know about Kelsey, but I think the big deal right now is going to be paying Mahomes and trying to get Chris Jones. I think that happens by cutting Sammy Watkins.
Well, it's definitely interesting outlook for them, but do you think that they'll play in 5 AFC championship games over the next 10 years?
I doubt it. I think that that's way harder to do than people think, just because the Patriots did it for so long because their team was so great. I just think it's going to be tougher to do than that, because it's going to be all about their coaching. I want to see the Chiefs without Bieniemy. I want to see them lose their offensive coordinator, because I think next season, in my mind, he is going to be a head coach. I don't see a reason why, unless the Chiefs just somehow struggle mightily on offense next year, which would answer this question if they just come out struggling on offense, if they could make it to 5 AFC championship games. But I don't see that happening. I think Bieniemy deserves to be a head coach. He probably should have been this year. But that's what I'm going to be looking for. It's going to be all about coaching. Like the reason why the Patriots were so good for so long is because of coaching. It's not really exactly because of the players. The Patriots recycled players like it was nothing. They had the idea that they could get rid of a player once a guy's before they have to pay him, they'd trade him and stuff like that, and they would still make it work because they had Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. So I guess it's partially Tom Brady as well. But regardless, I don't think they're gonna. How long did you say? 5 AFC championships in how many years?
Half of the. So basically 5 times in the next decade.
It's possible. I'm not exactly confident because young quarterbacks are going to rise in that time as well. Like, you never know. It's hard to say right now. What do you think?
I agree with you. I'd say like a push to under, just because of how tough it is to make it back there, and then there are all those decisions that you have to make when you do have a quarterback making that much money. The Patriots never had Tom Brady making a ton of money compared to other quarterbacks, so they could afford to go out and spend money on some guys, even if sometimes they usually weren't the top tier veteran free agents. But that being said, it's going to be difficult for the Chiefs when they do extend or give Patrick Mahomes a new deal. But I still think they'll be a threat. Now, on the other side, the San Francisco 49ers, for them, I think that they're an up-and-coming team. There are questions at quarterback, but this felt like it could have been a special season, and I'm not sure how likely it'll be for them to repeat it next year. They're still in a very tough division.
For sure. Like, if Seattle made it past, I think you could have made the argument that Seattle could have beaten San Francisco. Obviously, they did it earlier on in the season, and it would have been a much tougher matchup than Green Bay, for sure. So it's a shame that Seattle couldn't make it past Green Bay, because I think it would have been a much better game. But it will be interesting, because I really think that going forward, Sherman's only going to be getting worse. You do have Nick Bosa, who is very promising. He is very promising and could get even better than he was this season, which he had a phenomenal rookie season. You have some good linebackers in Fred Warner and Quan Alexander. But it's just, I think that they need to figure out the cornerback problem and quarterback and defensive back. I think that those are their biggest problems going forward. And quarterback might not even be a problem. I still don't even know what to think of Jimmy Garoppolo overall. I think he's more like a game manager in my head, but I don't really know.
This is also only his first year as a starter, like a full season.
Yeah, that is true. So we'll have to see how he does going forward.
As far as Jimmy G goes, I think he has, 2 or 3 years left on his deal. I'd be keeping him at least through next year, too.
Oh, yeah, easily. I think that you could work around him. I mean, you got to the Super Bowl. Ain't no reason to dump him now. Your team is able to work around him. I think that you should just keep building at the moment. And if he fails this next season, then maybe start thinking about you need a new quarterback, see who's available on the market and stuff.
Any closing thoughts on the Super Bowl and the final game of the 2019-2020 season?
No, but I think we both actually, yeah, I think we both wish we bet on Kyle Juszczyk getting those 7 yards, man.
Yeah, I actually was voting for him for MVP through the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, man, he was dope. I'm mad at myself because I was even talking to my friend who was watching with. I was like, I'm thinking I really wish I'd bet on Kyle Juszczyk getting 7 yards, and even because I don't know how many sites it lets you do it, but I would have even increased to 15 yards to make it so it was a bigger payout. And yeah, he got 39 yards, so that kind of hurt.
You had to know the Niners were going to throw the ball more than 20 times, but yeah. Well, I guess we missed it, but hey, I mean, at least we had the foresight to think that was going to happen.
Yeah, man.
Alrighty, let's move on to some Steelers news. First and foremost, Steelers general manager Kevin Colbert signed a 1-year extension, which will keep him through the 2021 draft. So Colbert is on for at least 1 more year. I have to think that'll probably be it for him. Maybe 1 more year after that. He could be walking out the same time Ben and Tomlin do.
Yeah, it feels like that's gonna. The 2021 is when the Steelers are gonna finally fall apart because you're gonna have Ben probably going, you're gonna have Colbert probably going, you're probably gonna see Marquise Pouncey leave because he said he's gonna step out when Ben steps out. So I mean, that might be the year the Steelers rebuild. We'll have to see, but yeah, I'm glad he's back for 1 more season.
At the very least, say what you will about Kevin Colbert, he's always been very consistent, and I'm very thankful for that. And you can complain about his Jarvis Jones pick or his Terrell Edmonds pick, but, people whiff on guys all the time. And for Jarvis Jones to be the worst first-round pick, that's still not that bad. I mean, he still lasted his full 4 years, so I guess it's, it could have been obviously better, but everyone thought he was going to be legit, too. And if you look at that 2013 draft, there aren't a lot of really good players from that first round.
Not at all. The 2013 draft was pretty dry in terms of the first round.
So that being said, let's shift gears here to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The 2020 class was announced the day before the Super Bowl at the awards ceremony, and information was leaking beforehand. But the guys that made it included Steve Hutchinson, the guard from the Seahawks and the Vikings, Edgerrin James, the running back for the Seahawks, Cardinals, and Colts, Steve Atwater, a safety for the Broncos, and Isaac Bruce, a receiver for the Rams and 49ers. I believe the 49ers. And, of course, Steelers safety Troy Polamalu, which also then means that Steelers guard Alan Faneca did not make it to the Hall of Fame. This was his 5th year of eligibility. So let's start with the good here. Troy Polamalu was probably the easiest lock from this class, and he made it. So one of the best Steelers defensive backs and really players of all time, probably the most memorable player over the past 25 years on the Steelers, has his career end here in Canton, and he simply was one of the best to ever do it.
Easily. I mean, he was one of the only locks for this year that people decided that he was going to be the one guy that made it. And he did, and he totally deserved it. I mean, this is awesome because I felt like Troy Polamalu stayed away from the media for so long and stayed away from football for so long. To finally hear from him and see some things I'm pretty sure at one point on this podcast we talked about how Pat McAfee had a whole show and skit talking about how Troy Polamalu ruined his life. We finally got to hear from Troy Polamalu on how he stopped Pat McAfee from running in a fake field goal attempt for a touchdown. He had a feeling and stuff, and it was just great. I loved hearing from Troy about all the stuff. He was so humble about it as well. He said he didn't even deserve it. It was just incredible stuff. I'm so happy that he made it, and for so many reasons.
And not just that, but the whole media stuff with Troy. We got to hear for the first time why he felt like walking away from the game when he did.
Yeah, and that was very good. For a while, people thought that the Steelers kind of forced his hand, which they did a little bit, but the people thought he was mad at the Steelers because he stayed away from the team and stuff. He kind of really stayed away from football, like I said, but he said that wasn't it. He just It wasn't that he didn't have a problem with the Steelers. He just wanted to step away.
And furthermore, he also had talked about how difficult it was to lead in his last 2 years. He had to become a leader, and he felt like that when he was leaving, he felt like the locker room was full of boys and not full of men, like when he entered the league, which spoke volumes, even though he didn't directly call anybody out.
Yeah, I mean, you think when he left in 2014, you have Le'Veon Bell there, you have Antonio Brown, you have Martavis Bryant. Yeah, there's some egos in there.
So I mean, it just really got you thinking there. But yeah, very happy for him, and you know, he's just one of those guys. He's just an A+ class human being, and you know, it's very great to see him get to share that with his sons too. And I remember, you know, his oldest son was just a baby when he had that pick six against the Ravens in the AFC Championship game, and now they're both over. I think they're both over 10 years old now.
Yeah, it's crazy. You might see little Palomalos entering the league in like 10 more years.
It'll be here before you know it. But one minor kind of, I guess it's not minor, but one thing about Troy's induction that I feel like may have been overlooked or maybe not celebrated as much because of the fact that Alan Faneca didn't make it and Steve Hutchinson did make it. Now, you and I both want to make it clear that we don't have an issue with Steve Hutchinson making the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think it's quite clear that he's deserving. But when you look at their resumes, it's an apples-to-apples comparison. Excuse me, you don't want to just look at stats, but when you have linemen, it's hard to not look at stats. There's really nothing else to judge them off unless you're looking directly at tape, which it's pretty hard to do when you're just the average Joe like us, you know? So you're looking at Steve Hutchinson in terms of All-Pro and Pro Bowls. He made, I believe, 5 first-team All-Pros, and Faneca made 6. And Alan Faneca made 9 Pro Bowls to Hutchinson 7, and he also has 1 Super Bowl to Hutchinson 0. So looking at those 3 numbers, I don't see how you could justify from a static standpoint of why Hutchinson would get in before Faneca.
That's not even it either. You don't hear Brian Urlacher and Ray Lewis saying, yeah, Steve Hutchinson should go in. They have Brian Urlacher and Ray Lewis, 2 Hall of Famers, saying that Faneca should get in. Like it's like you have like Hall of Famers sticking up from you have the numbers. Like there's no reason that it should have been one or the other. I think both should have made it in. I think that the problem here is not that Hutchinson made it over Faneca. It's that both didn't make it or the order of that they went in. Like it's easily should have been Faneca over Hutchinson if it's one or the other, and then Hutchinson makes it later, or they both make it in. Because Faneca has the better stats. He has the Hall of Famers defending him, saying, like, yeah, he was hard to play against, and he should totally be making it into the Hall of Fame. And, like, I don't understand. And then it comes down to there's problems with the Hall of Fame voting process and the committee. There's problems with both right now.
All right. So, in terms of voting for the Hall of Fame, let's make this as simple as it should be. You have 5 candidates that make it in every year. How should this work? Well, I think from a common sense standpoint, you should just vote for the 5 best players available. It shouldn't have anything to do with position. It shouldn't have anything to do with what team they played for. I think that's as simple as it needs to be. But unfortunately, as we kind of suspected, because I felt like Faneca wasn't going to make it in because of the whole 4 Steelers in the Hall of Fame, because of the Centennial class with Donnie Shell and Bill Cowher and now Troy Polamalu. I saw him not making it because of that, and I think that kind of rung out to be true. And then furthermore, there doesn't need to be necessarily just one position player that gets elected. Why can't they have 2 or, you know, God forbid, you know, we'll get to the Peter King quote in a minute here, but he said that he felt all 3 offensive linemen that were in the finalist group were deserving. So wouldn't that make sense to vote for all 3 then? You don't need to overthink this.
Exactly. It makes sense to vote all 3. If those are the top, if 3 of the 5 are best, I'm sorry, let me restart that. If the best players, if 3 of the 5 are offensive linemen, you vote for them. It doesn't matter that they're all offensive linemen. If you think that the best 5 players our offensive linemen, you vote for all three. It's very simple. The Hall of Fame process is you vote for the 5 best players. Not the 5 best players on different teams. Not the 5 best players that all play different positions. You vote for the 5 best players. It's a very simple process. Very, very simple.
So, that being said, let's get into Peter King's quote here. So Peter King is a well-known football writer. I've respected his work a lot over the past several years, but as a voter on the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he made his ballot public, and then he offered some very bad rationale for it. So Peter King did not vote for Troy Polamalu at the Hall of Fame. So why? Why not? Allow me to read this quote from his Monday morning quarterback weekly post here. He disclosed his final ballot being Steve Atwater, the safety, tackle Tony Baselli, guard Steve Hutchinson, running back Edgerrin James, and safety John Lynch. His explanation on why Polamalu did not make the cut, he said, and I quote, "I think an explanation for the lack of vote for Polamalu in the final 5 is necessary. I believe he was one of the top 5 candidates this year, and I believe in voting for the 5 best candidates. But because I felt certain Polamalu would make it, regardless of my vote, I decided to vote for 3 players I felt were marginal after listening to the deliberations: Atwater, Baselli, and Lynch. I don't feel great about doing that. Honestly, our jobs are to vote for the best 5, and I was totally on the fence about the fifth year vote I had marked down Polamalu. It still bothers me a little bit, but I felt so strongly about the cases of Atwater, Baselli, and Lynch, who were exceedingly close in my eyes, that I wanted to vote for them, knowing that a vote not for Polamalu was not going to keep him out. I've done this a couple of times before, and I absolutely do not want to make it a habit. It just felt like the right thing to do this year." Oh my. Let's kind of break this down piece by piece here, Austin. So let's start with this. I believe Polamalu was one of the 5 best candidates this year, and I believe in voting for the 5 best candidates.
No, you don't. No, you don't. That's a conflicting statement. No, you don't.
I believe in voting for the 5 best candidates. I believe he was one of the top 5 candidates. That makes sense. Except he didn't vote for Polamalu. So already he's contradicted himself. But because I felt certain Polamalu would make it, regardless of my vote, I decided to vote for 3 players I felt were marginal. What's that word, Austin? Marginal? So it's the Hall of Marginal now?
It is the Hall of Marginal. You don't vote for the 5 best players. You vote for the players that have been waiting a long time because they've been waiting a long time. It's not supposed to be the 5 best players. It's not that simple, John. We're just not on that IQ level. We don't understand. Because voting for the top 5 players doesn't make sense. You don't want the Hall of Fame to be the best of the best. You want the Hall of Fame to be the guys that you think should be there because that's how you feel. Because they've been waiting. So you're supposed to water down the Hall of Fame with some not so good players, just so like you look at the top guys like, wow, those are really good, and then you look at the rest of some of the Hall of Fame, you're like, this we just don't understand, John. Our IQ levels aren't high enough.
And we have to forget it. It's not about the players. It's about the voters themselves. It's always been about the voters and their egos.
Exactly, dude. We could never understand, man.
I don't feel great about doing that, honestly. Our jobs are to vote for the best 5. So he's reinforcing the statement that it's their job to vote in the best 5 best, and he believes in doing that, apparently.
Yes, he is quite literally saying that he didn't do his job correctly, which he didn't. He is quite literally admitting he said that he didn't do his job correctly.
It still bothers me a little bit. Are you sure? But I felt so strongly about the cases of those 3 players who were exceedingly close in my eyes that I wanted to vote for them, knowing that a vote not for Polamalu was not going to keep him out. What if everyone else had that same type of mentality? What if they were like, oh, Peter's going to vote for Polamalu. Oh, so-and-so's going to vote for him. I'm not going to vote for him. All of a sudden, if enough people do that, he's not in the Hall of Fame, and then it's one of the biggest travesties in pro sports.
Yeah, that would be absolutely nuts. And obviously, if this thought process exists, someone else has got to be doing it. That like, there's got to be someone who thinks that they also can cheat the system and be like, oh, let me get some players in that have been waiting a long time.
Yeah, and as frustrated as I am, as I'm sure everyone else is with Peter King, I know for a fact that this is happening elsewhere, not just with this Hall of Fame, but I think with other Halls of Fame in general. And I think that it's exposing a wider spread issue. So I'm almost thankful because of it, because now I know just how widespread, at least I have an idea of how widespread I think it is now because of something like this. It's just insane. But getting back to the quote here, I've done this a couple of times before, he said. A couple of times before. And I absolutely do not want to make it a habit. That's strange. If he's done it before and he did it this year, doesn't that make it kind of a habit?
It does make it a habit. If he did it more than once before and then he did it again this year, it means he did it at least 3 times. There's been 3 instances at the least that he admitted to. So that sounds like a habit to me.
So what have we learned today, Austin?
You don't vote for the 5 best Hall of Fame players. You vote for the 5 that you want to get in because they've been waiting long enough. And if it helps your ego, that's all that matters. And if you say that you feel bad about it, that's all that matters because he says he feels bad.
So next year with Charles Woodson, Peyton Manning, and Calvin Johnson, all first ballot potential Hall of Famers, it's certainly possible all 3 could get in, but maybe we shouldn't worry about that because clearly, even though they might be the 3 best players to come into to be eligible for Canton next year, I'm actually not worried about Peter King voting for Peyton Manning now. I actually don't think Peter King's going to vote for any of those 3 players, to be honest with you.
Yep, nope. It's just time to vote for Tony Baselli instead of Peyton Manning because Peyton Manning's a lock anyway, so why vote for Peyton Manning? Why vote for the 5 best players?
He better not vote for Peyton Manning next year.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to keep it up because Peyton Manning's a lock, right?
Yeah, right? My lord. So, it's quite clear that there are issues with this. Is there any way it can get better?
I think you have to, at this point, you have to make the Hall of Fame process public. You have to put these people on blast for the things that they're picking. Like, you can't just let them feed their ego like this. Luckily, Peter King was dumb enough to say that he does this stupid stuff. But we want to be able to see who else is doing this stupid stuff. Because I also think that at the end of the day, there's a problem with people not watching tape. I think that the Hall of Fame voters should absolutely be watching tape, going back and watching tape. Like, this is a big deal, I think. I think that they should be going back and saying, yeah, wow, watching Faneca, I think he did outperform Hutchinson. I think that he should be in here, not just stats-wise. I think that, I feel like that's a problem too, there. And I think that overall, I think the biggest thing is you just have to make it public. You have to see who's voting and who they are picking, who they picked. Some were nice. Some, I forget his name. One of the Hall of Famers put out his top 10 finalists stuff and how he ordered them. And he had a normal list. He had a pretty solid list. He had Faneca in his top 5 of people making it and stuff, which is probably why he wasn't afraid of posting out. And this is the problem. People are going to be opposed to this, the Hall of Fame voters, and if you're opposed to it, you're part of the problem. If you're afraid of being exposed for your picks, you are part of the problem, and then you probably need your vote taken away, and that's just how it works. I do believe Peter King should have his vote taken away, seriously, because if next year, I'm not even saying this as a Steelers fan, so if next year he doesn't vote for Peyton Manning, I mean, in a way, I'd be kind of pissed because like that he doesn't keep it up for his locks. But if he doesn't vote for Peyton Manning, he needs his vote taken away because he's not doing his job correctly at all. It's just not how it works. At least maybe there is no maybe. It really at this point I think that his vote should be taken away and that going forward the voting process should be public.
And beyond that, there just needs to be more reinforcement of just voting on the 5 best players. But I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't know how you enforce that because it is still subjective, regardless. Because you could even if what's it called? Even if you make it public, some guy could probably make the argument that hey, like I watched Hutchinson play and I thought he was better than Faneca, even though they got the awards. It's still subjective, unfortunately.
should. I don't know. It's just it's frustrating. It really is.
The entire thing. It's just like I felt like I aged so much, like listening to Peter King explain himself. I like lost some brain cells.
I had a thought, but I'm blanking on it now. I'll have to circle back to it if I can remember it. But it's just one of those things. I had a feeling this was going to happen, but it still like baffled me and annoyed me so much.
Yeah, man, it was just all bad.
So, how would you think? Because a lot of these guys are pro football writers who obviously are very busy with jobs. What if you got other people or had like a cycling, like a rotational basis as far as who voted for the Hall of Fame year by year?
That'd be cool if you kind of changed it up. I don't. Who would you go to? Like,
that's the thing. I'm not sure who could do differently. Like, I don't mean this literally, but like, what if there were like, what if it was like a mix of like bloggers or like I'm not saying like all bloggers, but like maybe like you have like a mix of bloggers or writers or people who work in broadcast or something like that. Not just writers, but a lot of different people who are represented. People that might have time to go through and actually watch tape.
Yeah, I think that would be good because part of my argument that is part of the problem that you're pointing out is that some of these guys just don't have time. But like you need to find guys that have time to like actually look at go back, look at the tape, like say, wow, like this guy played great. Like I don't know, it feels like there's like no effort going into it right now.
And it's tough because it's hard to like justify paying people to like go back and look at tape unless if it's their job. But how can you make this a job when you vote once a year?
Yeah, it's tough.
Not an easy solution, I guess, is what I'm getting at. But I think that something should at least be considered going forward here.
I think so. I'm just still all about making it public. I think making it public would change everything because if you're getting roasted, if people are coming at you, you get to actually take the fire instead of just seeing people talk about it. It's a whole different ball game. It's going to pressure you to actually pick the 5 best players.
I still think people would get heat, though, even though...
Oh, 100%.
Because I was talking to my friend Josh, who I've had on the show before, and he was talking about how mad he was that Vaselli didn't make it. And I was like, I'm not even talking about that right now. Like, I still think he's very deserving, but I was still like... I almost feel like Vaselli to Hutchinson is like an apples to oranges situation because Vaselli only played 8 years, and although he was the best tackle in the game when he played, I just felt like Hutchinson and Faneca were more of an apples to apples comparison. So I wasn't even like not entertaining it, but I just wasn't as into it.
Yeah, it's tough with these players that cut their career short when they're so good. It makes it tough.
Well, he had injury problems. That's why he had to stop playing. Kind of like Terrell Davis in the '90s.
Yeah, exactly. Davis eventually made it in. So
he did. So the benchmark is 7 years. So if you've played 7 years, you can technically make it into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm sure we could have a ton of discussions about it over the course of the off season as well. Let's shift gears here. Did you see that picture of Deontay Johnson from the hospital bed saying, "I'm a bounce back"? Did you ever see like what that was about? Because I'm not sure what it is exactly.
Nothing came up. I have no idea. It just came out of nowhere. Mike Tomlin in like his closing presser said, "Yeah, any surgeries that needed to happen have happened already," and then this just came like literally like 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So this was a surprise, and we still don't know what exactly happened. So I have no clue.
Neither do I, but I would assume that he's probably going to be okay. I'm not going to speculate, but too much. But I would hope that with this much time between now and the preseason, that he should still be okay.
Yeah, I think he should be good.
What else here? Former Steelers defensive back Cameron Kelly pled guilty to disorderly conduct from an incident in December that got him arrested and subsequently cut from the team. I just figured I'd mention that.
Yeah. He'll probably resurface in the XFL, I feel like.
Yeah, I think his NFL chances are pretty much dashed, but he could still play in the XFL. Probably not this season, though.
Yeah, probably not.
NFL news, Chiefs defensive tackle Derek Nottie, a guy that I looked at pre-draft not this past year but the year before, he paid the adoption fees for 91 dogs in the Kansas City area after Super Bowl 54, a very classy move. With around $150 fee per dog, he's estimated to have paid over $13,000 with that, which maybe isn't a ton to us, or maybe not seems like a ton to NFL players. Remember, he is on a rookie contract and he wasn't a first-round pick, so he's not exactly made of money.
Yeah, but don't you win $50,000 for winning the winning the Super Bowl? Doesn't each player get an additional $50,000?
I thought that was the Pro Bowl, but that actually sounds right.
I mean, regardless, it's still his money that he didn't have to spend, and no one else did it. So, I'm not trying to judge him that way, but easily just a classy move and just great all around. And it's good to have some. It's fun. It's weird that we have 2 dog news for the NFL this week. At least we have some good dog news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. So the sad dog news is that the Browns' former mascot, Swagger, died at age 6. Apparently he had cancer and had to retire at week 10 this season. So that's some unfortunate dog news, but he was obviously a much-loved dog in the city of Cleveland.
Yeah, very sad. 6 is way too young for a dog. That's still a puppy.
And his son is carrying on his legacy as the current mascot. I think Swagger Jr. or Swagger 2 is what they call him.
Swagger 2. The return of Swagger.
Yeah, sounds like a movie series, huh?
Yeah, I want him to be Swagger 2. I feel like it's probably Swagger Jr., but I really hope it's Swagger 2.
We'll call him Swagger 2.
There we go. Yeah, that makes me happy.
Eric Weddle, the longtime thorn in the side of the Steelers, finally announced his retirement. He spent last year with the Rams, but had spent most of his career with the Chargers and then a handful of years with the Ravens before this past season. One of the best safeties of this generation. I felt like he was never the best safety, but he was always around the best in the league up until the last couple of years.
Yeah, he was always up there. He's doing good, and he played pretty high level up into a pretty older age. So, I mean, I thought... honestly, I thought he was going to keep going, and because he was still playing well at his age. But I mean, I guess he wants to call it quits on his own terms.
Isn't he one of the guys that Ben Roethlisberger was lobbying for before he went to Baltimore all those years back?
Yep, he was. Just too much money.
Yeah, he was worth it though in the end, wasn't
he? Yeah, I think so. He played at such a high level.
Now, I believe he went to the Ravens after they won their Super Bowl, right?
I can't remember.
I believe so. I'll have to check that sometime. What's going on with Greg Olsen here? He had 3 visits lined up with the Bills, Redskins, and the Seattle Seahawks. Where do you think he's going to end up? I
think he's going to end up with the Redskins. The Redskins, I feel like, have the money to spend, and also the reunion with Ron Rivera makes sense. Also, Vernon Davis just retired.
Yep.
Yeah. So, they still have Jordan Reed, but Jordan Reed, I don't think has ever played a healthy season. I'm sure that's an exaggeration, but the dude...
He hasn't in forever. The last time Vernon Davis did, I feel like.
Yeah, it's been a very, very rough injury trip for Jordan Reed. I honestly think Jordan Reed should be a player that retires early. The man gets a concussion every 3 weeks, and his last concussion kept him out the rest of the season, which is ridiculous. But to me, that makes sense. I don't understand why Seattle would bring him in. I feel like Seattle's tight ends are pretty good. I mean, maybe they don't think. I'm forgetting his name.
Luke Wilson, boy.
Not just Luke Wilson, but Hollister was good, and then they had another tight end that tore his ACL earlier in the season that was playing really good up until that point.
Oh, Will Dissly.
Oh yeah, they have Dissly. Maybe they don't think he'll be ready for the beginning of the season, so I don't think that makes sense. The Bills could do it, but I feel like they have a lot of money invested in tight end right now, and Tyler Kroft. I mean, they could easily cut him, I suppose, because he was a $6 million man, but I don't know. To me, Redskins make the most sense all around. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. The whole Ron Rivera connection there seems pretty strong. You're throwing my boy Sprinkle out with the bathwater here, though.
Yeah, I am. I
don't even know his first name, so I'm not.
I think it's Jeremy. I think it's Jeremy Sprinkle.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Oh, they're a bad team.
They are a bad team.
I'd be cool if the Bills cut Tyler Kroft, but I still don't know if the Steelers have enough money to sign him. Man, nothing against Nick Burnett personally, but would Luke Wilson have been that much worse?
Honestly, probably not.
We got an info free. Instead, we don't have a 5th-round pick now.
Yep, it really do be like that sometimes.
More sad news here. Pro Football Hall of Fame safety Willie Wood passed away on Monday at the age of 83. He was a part of the Packers' first Super Bowl championship teams in the late 60s and spent his entire career with the team. So rest in peace to a legend. He had the first memorable defensive play by a player in the Super Bowl, had a long interception return to the 5-yard line that set up a score for the Packers when it was 14-10 coming out of the second half. And the Chiefs were still hanging on to a chance to win the game, and then the Packers eventually blew that game open. So rest in peace to Willie Wood. San Francisco 49ers tight end Garrett Selleck announced his retirement. Brett's younger brother with the 49ers. He's played 8 seasons, was an undrafted free agent in 2012, but did not catch a single pass this year after ending the season on injured reserve in December, and also started the year on PUP with the 49ers. So a long injury-riddled season for him, and in retirement.
Yeah, man, quite interesting week for the Selleck brothers, as the other Selleck brother is now on the coaching staff of the Eagles. He rejoins his team just on the coaching staff, so an interesting week for the Sellecks.
There were a couple of good tight ends. I mean, Brett was obviously the better player overall, but both had solid NFL careers.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
So as the Pro Football Hall of Fame class was being announced, the NFL awards and honors were also being announced. You want to cover some of those?
Yeah, so the MVP and unanimous MVP, which was unexpected since he didn't even win all the AP votes, was Lamar Jackson. That was deserved. Defensive Player of the Year, I think this is where a lot of controversy comes from Steelers fans. Stephon Gilmore won. And not only did Stephon Gilmore won, TJ Watt finished in 3rd in voting behind Chandler Jones. I stand behind that Gilmore wasn't anything spectacular. He wasn't anything... he played well, but he didn't separate himself from the cornerback group. I mean, there's just been an image floating around. And I know some of it's wrong, but it has Nelson versus Gilmore. But I believe the only thing wrong on it is just the touchdowns. It said Gilmore didn't have a touchdown when he did against the Bengals. He had a pick 6. But regardless, like, the stats between him and Steven Nelson are identical. And it's just like, to me, I don't really see Gilmore as that guy. I would have been happier if Chandler Jones won it. I really, really would have. I still think TJ Watt should have been winning it, but like I thought Gilmore didn't, especially getting burnt by Devontae Parker and John Brown at the end, and having to play those guys as your those guys and the Jets, whatever Jets wide receiver you want to pick, Jamison Crowder or Robbie Anderson, those are the number ones he's played for 6 games this year. Like that's enough for me to say, like, listen, like, you know what? I probably would have been better with Tre'Davious White, if I'm being honest. I liked Tre'Davious White had similar stat line exactly, and that's part of my problem. It's just that Gilmore didn't have a lockdown year. It wasn't amazing. There's so many other cornerbacks that had similar years, if not better, against better competition. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of that. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
The way it works is that they almost never vote for players who are on teams that don't make the playoffs. Whatever you think about that, I personally don't agree with that, but knowing that is the case, I had a pretty good feeling Gilmore was going to win it. I mean, he was really the only one besides Daniil Hunter, who finished like 5th in voting, that was on a playoff team. So I kind of saw it coming. But I understand why Chandler Jones was ahead of Watt, and I understand why Gilmore won it.
Yeah, just tragic. But regardless, moving on, Offensive Player of the Year was Michael Thomas. He was deserving.
Very happy about that.
Yeah.
If it wasn't him, I'd have loved to see Christian McCaffrey. But again, Thomas was on a team that made the playoffs, and McCaffrey didn't. But I was very happy. Usually, I thought the Offensive Player of the Year award was like the most meaningless award ever because it's always the MVP winner. But this time it wasn't. I was very happy about that. It should almost never be the MVP because the MVP is almost always the best quarterback or running back in the league. So I'm glad that it was someone different.
Exactly, and it makes sense. I mean, he set the receiving yards record, not receiving yards, reception record in a season. So that was much deserved. Then comeback player of the year was Ryan Tannehill. Any thoughts on that?
Excellent, great decision. honestly don't even know who else could have won it besides him. I mean, he just stuck out so much.
Yeah, I think Ryan Tannehill was perfect for that. Offensive Rookie of the Year was Kyler Murray. I personally think it should have been Josh Jacobs. I think
I agree with you. I agree.
what hurt Josh Jacobs was that he missed like the end of the season with his injuries. But Josh Jacobs was playing at a high level the entire year. Kyler Murray still has some development to do. I love Kyler Murray. I think he is going to be great. I think he is going to continue to be good. But you compare how Josh Jacobs did for the Oakland Raiders, and it's just, I think that Josh Jacobs played at like a top 10 running back level, top 5 running back level even, somewhere in between there. But regardless, and Kyler Murray, I can't say played at like a top 5 quarterback or even maybe top 10 all year. That's how I look at it. But yeah, so do you have anything else to say about Josh Jacobs and Kyler Murray?
I can understand why Murray got votes because he's a quarterback and maybe he put together the more complete year from top to bottom. But Josh Jacobs was one of the best running backs in the NFL. He was a dominant force this season.
Exactly, dude. But I mean, it is what it is. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Nick Bosa. There was no surprise. After I felt like the Chargers game, Devin Bush kind of disappeared for the flashy plays. So, and I felt like him and maybe Josh Allen were like the only ones really maybe Brian Burns as well. Were threatening Bosa for that, and then just Bosa really ran away with it. At the end of the season, Bosa just got better. So, do you have any thoughts on that?
Nick Bosa is just as good and probably better than I thought he was going to be, and I'd love to take him on any team.
Yeah, man, he's incredible, and he played well throughout the playoffs. Coach of the Year was John Harbaugh. Just to note, Tomlin got 2 votes for that, which is kind of cool. But John Harbaugh was definitely deserving with what he did with the Ravens.
If the Steelers made the playoffs, I still think Tomlin would have won it. But as soon as the Steelers didn't, it was going to be either Harbaugh or Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, easily. Assistant Coach of the Year, Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator of the Ravens. Have anything to say there?
Absolutely the right call.
Yeah, easily. Then Walter Payton Man of the Year was Calais Campbell. Do you have anything to say about that?
Nope, just I love the Walter Payton Man of the Year. I love the presentation of it at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, man, it's awesome stuff, and good on Calais Campbell for winning it.
All right, what's going on here with Tom Brady? You saw that Super Bowl commercial, didn't you?
Oh yeah, that was hilarious. There's controversy that he might be stepping away from the game because he posted a picture on Twitter that looked like he was stepping away, and then it just turned out to be a Hulu commercial. So that was great.
But with that being said, he's still not under contract, so he might not be returning to the Patriots. We'll learn a lot about his future over the coming months, but the Raiders seem to be one of the teams that could be interested in Brady if he leaves.
The commercial was in black and white. You know who else's colors are black and white? The Raiders. It's a conspiracy theory. He's signing with the Raiders, confirmed.
That seems like a John Gruden grinder right there.
Yeah, man.
Are we excited for the NFL offseason now? Time to get to some pre-draft coverage. Continue making draft profiles on my end. I have an article coming up about the winners from the 4 college all-star games that I got to watch. Hope we should have that posted in the next couple days. Do you want to do one more episode in season 4, kind of looking ahead to the offseason?
Yeah, I think we'll finish season 4. We'll talk about our plan for how we think so far we're going to look at position groups for the draft and stuff like that. We'll talk about some contract stuff. We'll talk about free agents.
Put a bow on the 2019 Steelers season 2 since we've had about a month and a couple weeks here to reflect on it now.
Yeah, we'll do all of that. We'll do one more season 4, and then we'll head into season 5 talking about some draft stuff.
All right, awesome. So, I guess one last thing. The XFL debuted today. I know we talked beforehand off there about watching this. I watched a good bit of the first game, some of the second game. I'm a football junkie, so I loved it. But there was a lot of positive responses for it today. But I'm still holding out just because I remembered how crazy the AAF was after week 1, and it didn't last. So I need to see how this league performs when the going gets tough.
Yeah, right now I'm claiming the New York Guardians. I'm gonna try and watch tomorrow because today is Saturday, or actually technically is. Sunday morning as we're recording this. But regardless, I'm gonna try and watch later. But I feel like hurt. I feel like after the AAF experience, I was in love with the AAF. I loved it. I thought it was great. And you're exactly right. It had the same opening that the XFL did. Everyone loved it. That Mike Berkovich hit was like posted to all the social media platforms, and people were like, "Wow, this is great," and then it fell off a cliff. There is more hope for the XFL because of who is running it. He has a lot more money. He's expected to lose $400 million in the first year from this, but like that's not going to cripple him enough because I mean it's Vince McMahon here. Anyhow, what was I going to say? I just lost my train of thought. Oh, there is also hope because in the first day, not even all the games done. The first day, only 2 XFL games were played, and it's already out. What's the word I'm looking for? It got more money than the AAF did in its entire career. So they're already doing things a little bit better, but I don't know. I still have a salty taste in my mouth from the AAF coming to a close. I really loved it. I was in love with the San Diego Fleet. I'm not as in love with the Guardians, even though that's the team that I ended up choosing. I don't know if I'm gonna be into it. We'll see. I might change it up. Maybe I'll watch it. I'll be like, oh, this is great. But right now, I'm just not as into it.
Part of it is for me today was watching some guys like Kenneth Farrow, Jarrell Presley, Rashad Ross, all performing for the XFL. But I still see them as players from their AAF teams. It's tough. I miss it, but it's still football. I got to be honest with you. The crowd was pretty good, at least in the first game, and I liked some of the rule changes. You know, one of the few things that the AAF did really well was their experimental rule changes, and I kind of really liked the kickoff that the XFL had, and I also thought the play clock was interesting too. I don't know if you know about that.
I don't know about the play clock, but the kickoff, I might be the only ones that didn't like it. I didn't like the kickoff personally, but like I know that that's a unpopular opinion. I watched it. I was like, this is just asking for like a lot of easy touchdown returns because there's just like it makes sense for player safety, but like to me it's just like there's gonna be so many touchdowns from that because all it takes is one pancake block to happen and you have a huge hole and it's just your kicker to defend it and that's just a touchdown. I don't know. To me, we didn't see it today. At least I don't think. I mean, I might be. I didn't watch.
I don't believe so. That's funny that you mentioned that because that was actually my first thought when I saw it, and the fact that it didn't happen today left me feeling good about it. But we'll see. There's also huge penalties for touchbacks.
Yeah.
So it promotes going for it on 4th down, and there's 1, 2, and 3-point conversion plays after touchdowns.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll have to actually watch and see, and I think as teams like as the season goes on and teams get tape on and see what's going on, I think that there is going to be a higher chance that returns happen later. After they see like how players play and how they do it on special teams, but for now it seems okay. But I feel like it's asking for just like a bunch of returns, and they're not going to be fun to watch because it's just going to be a guy got past one layer and now he's gone. It's bye. It's just like I don't know. To me, it makes it even less fun than it was, and in a way, it's great because it is better for player safety. But because you're not like colliding like a truck. But I don't know. I just would rather get rid of kickoffs altogether, basically.
Regardless, it's better than what the NFL has now.
I think it's lateral, but that's besides the point.
Well, when it comes to player safety.
Oh, player safety, 100%. That's an improvement.
I think that's what makes it better, even if it's not different from an entertainment value.
There you go. Yeah, that is true.
I'm pretty sure they use Sky Judge too.
Sky Judge is cool. I am happy with Sky Judge.
So, anyways, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. But for the time being, closing thoughts. Anything else?
No.
Alrighty. If you have any questions about the show, please feel free to email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our episodes posted on YouTube and SoundCloud under our name, Stronger Than Steel Podcast. And feel free to check our website, strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com, to see our episodes and our various off-season posts that we'll have coming up in the upcoming months leading into the draft. So, Austin, thank you for joining me, and we'll be back shortly to wrap up Season 4 of the podcast. Always appreciate your listenership, and the support. Austin, thank you for joining me, and everyone have a terrific night, and enjoy the NFL offseason. We're finally here. Yay.
Yay, no more football besides XFL. Well, have a good night, everybody.